Hi there everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be telling you about my top 5 fears this pregnancy and 2 things that I don't fear that a lot of people do. For those of you that are new to my channel, my name is Dani. I have a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old and we are currently pregnant with our 3rd baby. We do not know the gender. I am due at the end of June, but I am scheduled for induction on June 22nd. I do have a high-risk pregnancy, I have high blood pressure, I'm at risk for preeclampsia, as well as a couple of other factors. Due to the fact that I have a slight curvature in my back, I have scoliosis that is twisting. It's not like S-shaped or anything. It is twisting. It starts in my hips and it goes up until about my rib cage, and it causes all of my nerves in my back to be really close together and jumbled up, and I am not a candidate for an epidural. With that being said, I've now had 2 induced labors where I have not been allowed to have any type of painkillers. It's really hard, but it's totally worth it. So with that information being said, my pregnancy fears may differ a lot from others. My biggest fear right now is that I'm going to go into spontaneous labor prior to my induction, and that I will end up having the baby at home or in the car or in public or somewhere. Now, this is a really irrational fear for most people. A lot of people have the fear that they won't make it to the hospital in time, or that they'll end up having their baby at home. And for most people, like I said, this isn't a rational fear. It's very, very irrational because many people have a very, very long labor. Now, for me, the reason that I don't think it is an irrational fear is because my first labor was 6 hours. My second labor was 2 hours. With these labors, I really didn't think much of the contractions or the pain until I was about 4 centimeters dilated, and then really at 6 centimeters where I was like, all right, well, this really sucks. So whenever I am really, really pregnant, like between 30 and 39 weeks pregnant, I am already in so much pain. I have pubic symphysis, where your pubic bone is like this and mine goes like this, and there's cartilage in the middle that's being stretched out. I am constantly in pain. I am almost on bed rest. If I'm not on bed rest, I'm real close to it. I also, from my scoliosis, have hip problems, so my hips are constantly popping in and out and things are stretching all over the place. So I'm already in a lot of pain at that point. And so I wouldn't have really thought anything of my contractions until I was about 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. Hey, you want to be in the video? Say hi everybody. Oh no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. No. Okay. See you later. Go someplace else. So whenever I reached about 5 to 6 centimeters, I had a baby within 45 to 30 minutes. My biggest fear is that that's going to happen to me, that I'm not going to realize that I'm in active labor, and by the time my brain is like, hey, you're in labor, you need to get to the hospital, it's already too late. If I'm at that 6 centimeter area, I'm not making it to the hospital, because if that baby comes in 45 minutes, my hospital is over an hour away. So I'm not going to make it. There's no way. So if I get to 6 centimeters and I say that I need to go to the hospital, there's probably not much of a point of me going to the hospital. My next biggest fear is that I am going to go into labor while we're at one of our competitions. About a month from me being induced, we are going away on a trip. It's 6 hours away. It is the World Championships for the color guard that I coach, and we're going to be there for a week. And there's a lot of physical activity. There's a lot of climbing stairs. You have to go through tunnels underground in like ice hockey arenas. Like we compete in ice hockey arenas and things like that. So you're going like up and down all of these like tunnels and these hallways that are really steep in some areas, and it's really bad. And then we're getting up early. There's a lot of stress. So many things are going on. There's a lot of heavy lifting that I try not to help with as much, but there's just so many factors that could potentially cause your water to break or anything like that. Like, I'm just terrified if that were to happen, that like I don't know what would, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what would happen if I ended up like if my water ended up breaking or I ended up going into labor at a show, that would be, ooh, that would be a mess. My next fear is something that probably a lot of people have, but not necessarily for the same reason. I do not want to be group B positive, the strep B positive. I was positive with Maddie, and now it doesn't mean anything if you're positive. It's just the type of bacteria that's in your intestinal system. And it's fine if you're positive, it's fine if you're not positive. It doesn't mean that you're like a cleaner person or a healthier person. It's just the type of bacteria that's growing in your intestines and like inside your body at the time. But if you're group B positive and the baby ends up like inhaling it or getting it on them or anything like that, it can actually make them very sick. And so a lot of people don't want to be positive for it, because then when you're in the hospital you have to get penicillin, and you have to get 2 rounds of penicillin, which isn't necessarily a problem for most people, but you have to do like the fluid bags with it, and you have to have so much of it before the baby comes out. Now, like I just said, my labors are really quick. With Maddie, I was positive. With my first daughter, I tested positive, and I barely made it through the first bag of it when she was born. So for that reason, we ended up having to stay in the hospital extra long, because they had to make sure that I tested negative for it and that Madeline tested negative for it before we left the hospital. So they had to take extra vials of blood from us, from me and Madeline, and every single day they would take that and they would test it to see if it was reactive. And I had to, like I said, stay extra long to make sure that it wasn't reactive, because after so many days, if it's not reactive, then you're good. I don't know how the whole process works, but anyway, if you don't get all of the fluid and all of the penicillin in you, you do have to stay extra time in the hospital. And like I said, for most people it's not a problem, because their labor is long enough. They'll, you know, you'll get it in your system and you're fine. They don't usually start it until you're like 4 to 6 centimeters. At least at my hospital, they don't start it until you're 4 to 6 centimeters. And for me, when they started it, 45 minutes later, I had a baby. So there was no way I was getting through all of the penicillin. My 5th and final fear of this pregnancy is that my labor will actually be longer. I had this fear with my last one as well. So with my first daughter, I had no expectations. All I knew is I was going in, I was getting induced with Cervidil, then I was supposed to have Pitocin in the morning, and that I couldn't have an epidural. That's basically all I knew. So if you can imagine, my fears in the first pregnancy were like out of this world, like every single thing you can imagine. Going in, not knowing what the pain is like, not knowing if your pain tolerance can handle it, knowing it doesn't matter what happens, you're not getting an epidural to control the pain, and then being induced with a medication that you've never had before, you don't know how your body reacts to it. Things were crazy. This time, I am worried that I'm going to be induced, but it's going to take longer. Like, I don't want it to take longer than it already has. And 4 hours and 6 hours is not a long labor for most people, but since I already had a 4-hour labor and the 6-hour labor, if I ended up having like a 12-hour labor, I'd be like, oh my gosh. Like, I don't know what I would do, because, you know, I know what my tolerance is and what my limit is, and the 6 hours seemed long enough at the time. I guess it wouldn't be so bad, like if it took me 10 hours to get to like 6 centimeters, then I'd be like, okay, whatever, that's fine. 0 centimeters to 6 centimeters was like, no problem. I mean, it hurt, but it wasn't like I was dying. Like I was able to handle it, I could control it, I didn't think I needed an epidural, you know, anything like that. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't have one, so I think that started my tolerance level already like higher than what most people would expect. Because when you know that you can have one, you're like, why should I be in this pain? Just give me the epidural. So for me, I was already like, I saw a lot of people who were like, I need it at 2, I need it at 4. And when I got to like 2 and I got to 4, I was like, well, I know that this is not anywhere close to as bad as it's going to be. So like, don't let this affect you. Just push through it, it's fine. But I feel like if I were to hit like 6 centimeters in 2 hours and then I were to sit there for another 10 hours, like I would lose my crap. They'd have to do something for me. I would lose it. I don't know that. I mean, I obviously would have to go through it, but like, I don't even want to think about it. I really don't. So I'm hoping that it is the 4 hours or shorter. I can deal with the 6 hours if I have to. I could probably do like 8 hours, but pushing that, I'd probably start to lose my mind knowing that it's so much longer than my other pregnancies. I don't know if any of that made sense. That might just be what's going on in my head and it doesn't compute in anybody else's brain, but that's what I'm thinking. So, my 2 fears that a lot of people have, that most people have, that I do not have. The one is pain during labor. So like I said, I've already gone through 2 unmedicated labors and they were induced, which is supposed to be apparently worse than spontaneous labor since you have medications making things go faster and stronger. I can't compare the induced labors to a spontaneous labor. I've never had one, so I don't know if one is worse than the other, but I'm told that being induced is supposed to be worse than the spontaneous labor. But either way, I have survived through 2 labors with no epidural and no pain medication and induced, and I know I can do it. I know what it feels like. My brain knows what to expect. A lot of people say you forget the pain. I have not forgotten the pain. Nuh-uh, no way. I'm not forgetting that. But I already know what it's like in my head. I know what my body feels like for each level of contraction and each level of dilation. I know what those contractions feel like. I know when I need to push. I know what my body's doing. I know how to control myself and control my pain and push through it. So I am not worried about the pain of labor. Am I excited about it? Absolutely not. Not in any way. Am I excited about it at all? If I didn't have to be in pain, I wouldn't be in pain, but unfortunately, it's not an option. And my second thing that most people fear that I don't fear is losing the baby weight. That is like a huge thing for so many people. They fear gaining all of this weight and not being able to lose it. And for me, whether or not I lose it is like, whatever. Like, I just pushed 3 living human beings out of my body. I spent over 3 years of my life creating life. And you were supposed to gain weight. It is healthy to gain weight during pregnancy, and it's okay if you don't lose it after pregnancy. You need to like embrace your body, and like your body did amazing things regardless of what it looked like before and what it looked like after. Now, fortunately for me, which isn't something that a lot of people have, I went from my starting birth weight to my ending birth weight with Maddie, and it was like after she came out and I went and I was in my recovery room, I could fit into all of my normal clothes. Before I had her, my belly went completely back down, and I think it weighed like 2 or 3 pounds more than when I had started. With Kaylee, it was about the same thing. As soon as I had her, I was able to change back into my normal clothes. My weight went down pretty much the same way that it did. And with this pregnancy, not that it's a good thing, but I've lost like 5 pounds in this pregnancy, and it's probably not a good thing. So I don't know if my doctor is going to be concerned about it, but I know I don't gain a lot of weight around the rest of my body. It's just belly. That's really about it. It's just belly and water weight. And so once the baby's out, everything goes back down to the way it kind of was. Like, I'm not trying to brag that my body does it. I'm just explaining to you what my body does, and I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I am very, very active while I am pregnant. I dance the whole time. All of my pregnancies, I've gone to my color guard practices, either like in the morning or like the night before. I went to my guard practices and I was dancing, and I can do my splits and my jumps and my leaps, and like it's not a problem. I stay active the whole time, which can be very, very difficult, but honestly, it is so worth it. If you can put yourself through like doing squats or some kind of exercise or quick walking, like light jogging, dance, anything, do it. The stronger your abs are, the stronger your legs are, the stronger your body is, the quicker your labor is going to be. You can push the baby out faster, and you can go back down to your normal size much faster. After the babies were out, I continued doing the same exercise that I had been doing while I was pregnant, and my body just adapted and kept going. So I don't really have that fear. I know a lot of people really fear their body image and their body shape and all that stuff, and I'm obviously not overweight or heavy set or anything, and I'm not underweight. I'm a healthy weight, so I know it's a lot easier for me to be like, well, I'm not really worried about my weight compared to some other people. But even for people my size, many of them are just so worried about their weight. And like I said, just embrace your body because it is doing amazing things. It is doing really amazing things. So that is going to be it for this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. Leave me a comment in the comment box down below. What is your biggest fear about pregnancy? And do you have anything that you don't fear about pregnancy? Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell so you get all of the notifications about my channel and the pregnancy and our daily vlogs. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!